martins. I actually love all birds. So this is my first time to do a Zoom presentation, so bear with me. I have a lot of stuff to talk about, and I'm going to try to stay on track, but sometimes I get easily sidetracked when I get excited about things. So, and like Patsy said earlier, if you have any questions, I would love to try to answer them. I am not a wildlife biologist. I truly am, as my friends like to call me, I'm just a crazy bird lady. And I've just had experience around purple martin colonies for as long as I can remember. My family has had a big colony out in Medina County, and I've just tried to share my love with it with everyone. So they're such a beneficial bird, and like all birds, they need our help. So anyway, I am going to get started here. Maybe. Oh, there we go. So again, my name's Allison, and I do love all birds, even chickens. So we're going to just get started with a little bit about the bird itself. And I do have information up on the screens, but sometimes I know everybody can read, so I don't want to read the screen for you. So I do have some notes. I'm going to be looking down a lot, reading my notes. So anyway, purple martins are a member of the swallow family, and they are the largest member of the swallow family, measuring in at a whopping 7 to 8 inches long each. And they actually are not purple. They are actually dark blue with an iridescent sheen that makes them look purple. So these are some pictures of some beautiful purple martin birds, and they do look purple, but you can definitely see the blue. They are oftentimes confused with chimney swifts and tree swallows, cliff swallows, and barn swallows. Now, you might be familiar with barn swallows. They love to build nests up underneath the eaves of your house. They're made out of grass and mud, and unfortunately, they make a rather large mess. So you either love them or you hate them. And if you have a question on how you can handle the mess that they make, let me know, because there is, well, I'll just tell you. So if you could probably Google it, but you can go to a home improvement store and buy a piece of wood and mount it like almost like a bookshelf underneath the nest, and it will catch all of the bird poop that leaves the giant mess. And it's just a much cleaner, lovelier way to enjoy the bird. So anyway, that is a barn swallow right there. This is a tree swallow. I don't know if anybody has seen one. I've personally never seen one in Texas before. I've seen them in Utah, but they are definitely probably go through at some point, but we are not in their breeding range. So it's definitely much further north. I see them in Utah in the summer. And another bird that often gets confused with purple martins is the cliff swallow. And I know you've seen these birds. They like to nest under bridges and underpasses, and they always give me pretty much heart failure when I see cars speeding underneath and those birds just swooping down. I don't know how they manage to avoid vehicles, but they do. And another one is the chimney swift. And I actually, I live over in Terrell Hills, and we have, not in my home, but somebody around me has chimney swifts that breed, I guess in their chimney. And because in the spring when my martins are here, I have a ton of chimney swifts flying around outside. Oh, sorry. Sorry. I should have warned you guys that my dogs were going to bark. So anyway, but the chimney swift looks very similar to a purple martin in flight. So, but with a little time, it's easy to figure them all out. So purple martins are aerial insectivores. They catch their food in flight. And as you can see here, one of their favorites is dragonflies. They catch moths, butterflies, and beetles, but unfortunately not mosquitoes like so many people like to think they catch. It just is a false story that I wish was true because I hate mosquitoes, but obviously martins feed very, very high up in the air and mosquitoes stay very low to the ground. So, and I'm not sure how many mosquitoes they would have to catch in order to fulfill those tiny little hungry mouths. It would be a lot of work. So they eat in flight and they drink in flight. And I love watching them drinking in flight. They skim over the surface of the water and they scoop the water up in their bottom bill. And they do the same thing when they're bathing. They kind of dip into the water and keep going, and then they'll land in a tree and preen. And they're just such beautiful, graceful birds. So timeline. As Patsy said, now is the time. They have started their northern migration from South America. They winter primarily in Brazil, and they begin their long trek back north, where they will then spread out up through. Let me get rid of this screen. Okay, up through the U.S. and Canada. Typically, these are just guidelines. They've been called patriotic birds. My parents used to always tell me, they arrive at President's Day and they leave July 4th, which is more or less true. But I think changes in weather and late spring, winter storms affects how these birds move around. So, you can see as a general guideline, like beginning of January, they start showing up on the Gulf Coast. Well, there's already been a report on December 23rd in Venice, Florida. The first scout was reported. There is if you go to purplemartins.org, they have a ton of great information and resources on birds and housing and specifications, but there is, they have part of their website. Well, I'll try to go to it here. What's happening? There we go. Anyways, if you click on research and go down to Scout Arrival Study, you see these little purple blobs. So people that participate in the Scout Arrival Study will then email into the Purple Martin Conservation Association and tell them that they've seen the scouts. And so this is just helpful, very helpful for landlords to kind of get an idea of when they might expect birds to return to their area, because, which I'll touch on later, we definitely have brought our houses down after the season. We've cleaned them up. We've closed them up, and some people remove them completely. And so this is a good indicator of when it's time to get ready for our birds to return. So the first birds that come back to the United States are called scouts. And back in the day, people used to think that these scouts would come in search of good housing and that they'd fly back to South America to get the rest of the birds and say, I found a good nest, let's all go, which is not true, but it sounds great. Scouts are actually the first birds to arrive, and they're generally older female or male birds returning to their previous nesting area. So purple martins exhibit a very high level of site fidelity. So once they have bred successfully at a certain location, the same individuals will return year after year. So those scouts that have successfully bred are going back to that same spot. And then 4 to 12 weeks after the adults leave, the subadults come. And the subadults are the birds that fledged last year. And these birds will begin their trek north. They do not have a previous nesting site. They do not return to their previous nesting site, which is interesting because there would definitely be an inbreeding problem. But they are looking for a new place to breed and raise their young. And if you are starting a brand new colony, then these are definitely the birds that you want to attract. All right, so we're going to talk about how to start your own colony. And I'm not saying you may not get an older bird. Sometimes an older bird may come back and it's the housing that they previously nested in is gone, or it could be that it's overrun with sparrows and starlings. So, but most likely you're going to be attracting the subadults. So that would probably give you timeline. I would say probably early March would be when those birds start arriving. So, all right. And I'm going to cover all these little bullet points: the quality housing, wide open flyways, starling resistant entrances, predator guards, and colony management, as well as the dawn song. I'm going to go into detail into all those. Okay, so purple martins are actually cavity nesters. They're what you call secondary cavity nesters because they do not excavate their own cavities like a woodpecker would. They take over an old woodpecker hole, or they'll nest in a dead tree. Thousands of years ago, people began providing man-made housing for purple martins in the form of dried hollow gourds. And actually, there are a lot of purple martin landlords that still grow their own gourds and use them for housing. I do not, but I love that that's tradition still continues. So nowadays, the eastern subspecies of purple martins nest exclusively in human supplied housing as a result of competition and habitat loss. And in my opinion, the quality of your housing really will say a lot about the success of your colony. And as Patsy mentioned earlier, a little bit of a side note, I guess it was last year. Last year, I called the city of Alamo Heights and asked them who was managing these two purple martin houses. One is at the Little League fields and one is right here by the nature trails. And nobody really could answer my question. So finally, somebody returned my phone call and I said to him, I would like to take over managing the houses. And I'm not kidding. I think the guy was at my house within 15 minutes with the crank for the to lower the housing. They were so happy to not have to deal with it. And anyway, I have some more pictures later on the slideshow because the houses were in a terrible state of disrepair. They were completely full of bedding from invasive birds. There was clearly some predator issues. And so Bear Audubon Society was extremely generous and has helped me financially with purchasing some of the upgrades to this housing. So I'll talk a little bit more about the different housing, but this is one of my favorites. This is it's called a T14. And this is another setup. This is my setup down by St. David's. It's actually looks a little different these days. I removed all those gourds and replaced them with some different gourds, but it's going to be even better this year. So, Oh, and you know what? Actually, I can go back. Oh, sorry. I always do this. Um, purple martins can be found all throughout Texas, except in the Trans-Pecos region. And I'm not sure why that is, but anyway, they're everywhere. So, all right. So let's go over the pros and cons of different housing options, because I know you've seen this house a lot. It's all around all the neighborhoods. They're fairly inexpensive. They're very readily available. But this house is not ideal for purple martins. The compartments in this house are 6 by 6 by 6. And if you remember from one of my first slides, that martins are actually 7 to 8 inches long. So these little houses have these tiny 6-inch long, 6-inch wide, and 6-inch high compartments that 2 martins and 4 to 6 babies try to live in. It's only 6 inches wide, and which is a problem because I have watched personally hawks come and hang off the side of the porch, and they just reach in with their talons because they don't have to reach in very far, and they can take whatever's in there out. So these houses aren't exactly ideal. Now, this is a different house. This is made by Bird's Choice, and you can see that probably back in the day, this could have been an 8-compartment home, but it has been modified. So now that it's just 4 compartments, but it's probably at least 11 to 12 inches long or wide. I don't honestly know if the birds go in and turn, or if they go in and they go back to the back section. Either way, martins will nest at the very back of the compartment, so they will be out of reach of anything that tries to stick their little grimy talons in there. Now this is back to the house that I was just talking about. This is the T14. It's made by Troyer Gourds, and these are wonderful compartments. They are 11 inches long. The houses are made of cedar. They do sell some that are made of polywood. They keep extremely cool in our hot summers. And the 11-inch long compartment is same thing. Any sort of flying predator is not going to be able to prey on whatever's inside the compartment. And I love how they've added some gourds to the bottom because the martins just can't resist gourds. And this is another setup from Troyer. I don't get a kickback from them. I wish I did, but I love their products. And I do love this gourd rack. It's amazing. This is their Gemini gourd rack. One day I'll have that. Okay, so you may say, okay, I don't want to invest in a new gourd rack house because they're not cheap. I already have this trio house. How can I make it better? And it can be made better. All houses can be modified to some extent, and to create a safer nesting environment for martins. And so during quarantine, I guess, before the birds got here, we have a place out in Medina County. We have a couple of houses like that I modified, and all you need is a drill with a 3-inch hole saw drill. Sorry. You can anywhere between 2 and 3 inches. 3 inches is better because 2 inches, you run the risk of wing entrapment. So the hole is just a little bit too small, and the bird may be coming in quickly and might get their wing hung up on it. Lots of times they can get out, and sometimes they can't, and they'll die in the hole. And anyway, it's just sad, and we don't want that to happen. So here's the house that I modified. So you can see this is supposed to be a 12 compartment house. and I drilled straight through the divider, and that way it became a 6-compartment house. But I will say this past spring, it was 100% full, and I felt good. I knew that they had a safe place to nest. So if you have any questions about how this is done, let me know, and I'll try to answer. Oh, and here's another lovely picture. And now this is another important part of how to modify your housing if it doesn't already have a starling resistant entry hole. So you have these crescent shaped holes that starlings cannot get into. They are, sometimes you'll go and you'll see a lot of the houses will have round holes. Those round holes everybody can get into. So to help with these invasive species like sparrows and starlings, this will keep your starlings out. And this is a great modification to make right now before your birds come. I did it at a couple of houses that we manage, and the birds will look and they'll poke their head in and they figure it out within hours. So there shouldn't be any hesitancy on your part if you do have round holes and you want to trade it out for starling resistant holes, because the birds, it will not affect martins. So a little bit about starlings is, starlings are an introduced species. They are non-native. They are very invasive, and they too are cavity nesters, just like purple martins. So if they start nesting first at a site, they are going to drive your martins away. If a starling actually traps a martin in a compartment, they have those long, hard beaks, and it will kill your martin. So it is really important to make this update to any housing that you might have. Now, this is a picture of wing entrapment, and it does happen. I've had it, unfortunately, I had it happen to me this past spring down at the Little League fields. I had one of my fledglings come out onto the porch before they were fledging, and it tried to get back in and it got stuck. It was terrible. But if you're actively managing your houses, if it's in your yard, that's simple. You could just look at it, obviously, every day. If it's somewhere else where you can drive by every other days, like for me, I really, now that the season's coming, I kind of make this loop around Terrell Hills and Alamo Heights, checking my houses. I check almost every day, if not every couple of days. So when you do, if you're actively managing and you come upon this, the chances are you'll be able to lower your house and release this bird unharmed. So there are some specific housing requirements for successful nesting in terms of flyways. It is recommended to place a house in a wide open space with 40 to 60 feet between trees and housing. And this can be difficult. I don't tell anybody, but I have a house at my home, and it's not very well situated in an open flyway, but I do have a few birds that come, and I feel like I'm a good enough landlord that I can overcome this issue. The biggest risk that we run is that you have hawks and owls that can just be perched in the trees, and they love a good, easy purple martin meal. And another thing you'll notice is how close they recommend putting purple martin housing to your own house or human activity. Martins are very social birds, and they love human activity. Okay, all right. So this back to, so this is that house. The day the guy came over to my house and gave me the crank for the birdhouse, I ran right over and lowered the house and opened it up. And this is what I found. It was the biggest mess you have ever seen. I mean, just layer upon layer of bird nests built by sparrows and starlings. It was chock full of yellow jacket nests. I mean, obviously these houses haven't had birds in years, and they used to. These bird houses used to be full. But whoever the delightful person was that spent the money and bought these, I don't know what happened, but anyway, as you can see, this unmanaged house would be impossible for a martin to use. And the culprits of this mess are house sparrows and starlings. And these houses were completely overrun. And the problem with house sparrows and starlings is they're always going to outcompete our native species, such as purple martins, tree swallows, and bluebirds. They're going to compete with them for nesting sites. They're going to evict other nesting birds. They're going to destroy their eggs. They will kill nestlings, and sometimes they'll even kill the incubating female. So this is the part that's not super fun about being a good landlord. I use several different methods to control sparrows. This is called a repeating bird trap, and it's worked really well for me. I obviously use it at my home. I can't put it out in public. I wouldn't want somebody to steal it. But this is a great way to catch sparrows. There is also this little contraption that I use on my Troyer gourds. It's called a Haskell tunnel trap. And it's very simple design, but it's a door that gets held up by this little silver thing. I don't even know how to explain it. And that's a rubber band. So when the bird enters into the gourd, it'll push the pin back into the gourd and the trap door will close. And if you're, observing your houses regularly, it's very easy to tell when the trap has been sprung, and then you can go and figure out what's inside your trap. If you go on YouTube, or you can even just Google house sparrows, you really will see how brutal these birds can be. They really and truly will kill anything that gets in their way. So controlling these invasive species is totally allowed. Both of these birds are introduced species in North America. They are not native, so there are no laws protecting them. And if you go to the TroyerGourds.com website, they actually have an entire page just dedicated to the different types of traps. I mean, there's traps for every single kind of house that you can imagine. So, the other thing to remember is that sparrows and starlings don't migrate like our songbirds do. So they're always here, and they're always nesting and reproducing, and they're the first ones here. And so they're going to be the first ones to claim a nesting site. So it's very important to take your houses down, clean them out, or close them up. If you actually drive by the nature trails or the Little League fields now, you'll see that I have the housing up, but I have all the doors closed, because until I see a purple martin back, then I'll open it up. Because once they get into their housing that they've been in previously, they're more likely to run off sparrows and starlings. But we don't want to give the sparrows and starlings an advantage by keeping these houses open and letting them in and getting established before these poor martins even get in there. And a lot of people, I know this isn't a popular subject, and I'm sorry, I have to talk about it, but a lot of people will say, oh, well, I'll just go in and I'll yank out the sparrow nest. Well, it doesn't really work. And I'm guilty. I've certainly done it many a times. I will yank nests out if my martins have not already returned. But once your martins return, when you start yanking out nests with eggs of sparrows, these male sparrows go into this rage, and they'll just make their way around the house, entering all the compartments, and they will peck and break at the eggs that are in the compartments. They'll kill incubating females. They are really a vicious little bird. So anyway, I'm enough about that. I will say, if you invest in a repeating trap, obviously monitor it very closely, because you will catch native birds. I've caught cardinals, I've caught wrens, I've gotten some doves just absolutely stuck in it because they were so fat they couldn't even get out. And but it's, if you're watching it, you're not going to have a problem. All right. Oh, so this is the tunnel trap set, and you can see the door is held up by the little pin that will get pushed in when the bird enters the tunnel. Oh, and this is kind of what a house sparrow nest looks like. They're usually a big, giant ball of mess, tons of grass, feathers. They pick up trash. It's not a beautiful little bowl type nest. It's a big, it will fill up the entire compartment. It will be hanging out of the compartment. I know you've seen it, but if you ever have questions, feel free to contact me anytime. Obviously, you can ask Mr. Google. He's pretty good about helping identify nesting and eggs and things like that. So this is what house sparrow eggs look like, which nothing like martin eggs, which are pure white. And as you can see, this is a bluebird nest. And so I was talking about, you can see how organized the nest is in a bowl shaped. And it's got these beautiful little blue eggs, which are not to be confused with starling eggs, which are blue and beautiful as well, but they are larger than bluebird eggs. And what I would recommend in this situation is I would watch your housing and confirm you've got adult starlings coming in and out of the compartment where you find these eggs before removing them. Okay, on to the next one. So predator guards. I drive around all the time and I see houses without predator guards, but in San Antonio, we're probably better off, but if you live out in the hill country, you must have a predator guard. Snakes love an easy meal. And you can see this giant rat snake moving up the cable of this house. And rat snakes are actually the single most important predator of bird nests, all bird nests. And if you're observing a nest and you go to check on it one day and it appears that everything's intact without any signs of nesting material torn apart or hanging in all or some of the eggs or all the chicks, and maybe the female goes missing, then you definitely have a snake. Protecting your birds from snakes is really important. They will devastate a colony. And I believe Patsy and I spoke about this may have happened at Cibolo Creek, where a nature center in Bernie, where a snake got up and got into the gourds and the housing and ate everything. And those martins will leave, and sometimes they'll never return back to that colony. There's something, I don't know a whole lot about this, but there's something about a scent of a snake that lingers. We've had it happen to us in Medina County. I will say our birds returned, but for a few dollars, you can go to Lowe's or Home Depot or anywhere and buy bird netting. and you'll get this huge sheet of bird netting, and you can cut it in pieces, but you will wrap it around the bottom of your pole, and you can secure it in place with zip ties. And this one looks pretty low. I like to get it at least a foot off the ground, because I always feel like if it's a big snake, I mean, it might be able to like reach over the netting, but you can see the spans, the span of this netting is pretty tall. So if a snake tries to go up the pole, it's going to get tangled in the netting. So this day we had zero martins nesting in this house, but I'd already cleaned it. There was still a chance that we could get a subadult that was looking for housing. So I cleaned out the house, I put in predator snake netting, and this is what happened the very next day. So you can see we caught this huge rat snake. And thankfully, this man was working across the street and came over and cut the snake out of the netting for me. Thank goodness, because I wouldn't have wanted to do it. And he put it in a bucket and he took it somewhere and relocated it. So we all know snakes are very important to the whole ecosystem. And I definitely don't want to kill snakes. But I do want to stop them from killing my birds. There are DIY ways to make a predator guard. It's almost like a bucket upside down around your pole. So you could always Google, but most of the sites that sell purple martin housing sell predator guards now. And if you buy a package, if you go on a website and you get like a house and a pole and a winch and gourds and all these things, generally it will always come now with a predator guard. So people have realized how important it is to protect our birds from these anything crawling up. And it could be a raccoon, it could be something other than a snake that's going up the pole. So you can see here, with the help of Bear Audubon Society, they helped me purchase this predator guard that I installed to keep the snakes out, as well as I installed brand new porches on the front of the house, because the existing holes, the starlings were able to get through. I don't know over time if they just kind of warped or got worn out, but anyway, these new porches on the house have been great. And lots of people have problems with owls. Owls will sometimes go at night and hit your gourds, and the birds will fly out and make for an easy meal for an owl. So this is obviously a really large contraption, but the martins have zero problems with a contraption like this. They just fly. You can see the martin at the very top, but or it could be a decoy, but they just fly right through them. And so just to recap on our invasive species here, this is a male house sparrow, and this is the female, and here's the starling. And these two species are currently recognized as one of the main threats to global biodiversity. They are introduced into this country, and they're wreaking havoc on our songbirds. They truly are. All right, so on to happier things. So 4 to 12 weeks after our scouts arrive, you can expect the subadults to return to North America to select a site and to breed. I've had great success playing the dawn song. It's a great way to attract birds. Since martins live in colonies, they are drawn to the chatter of other martins. So you can go on YouTube and just search for Purple Martin Dawn song and look for this picture. And then I would connect my whatever device it was to a Bluetooth speaker, and I just leave it out on my porch or in my yard somewhere close to my housing. And it's amazing the amount of activity that you get that attracts these birds, because they're so attracted to other birds in the chatter. And let's see here. What's happening? Oh, there we go. So, and there's also this little contraption called the songbird magnet, and they sell it at the local bird stores. They sell it on Amazon. I mean, you can get it anywhere. And this little contraption has two settings. One is Purple Martin vocalizations. The other is songbird vocalization. So I just switch it to Purple Martin. It has a photo cell on it, and it has a battery, not a battery, but it plugs into the wall, and it's got a super long cord. So, and it's supposed to be waterproof, as you can kind of tell, or I want to say waterproof. I mean, it can handle the elements. So last year I put this songbird magnet out over there by the Little League fields. I put it up under one of the dugouts near my house. And I believe it was probably around spring break. So it probably played for about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. And when I came back, I had 4 pair of birds that were at the house. So as soon as you've got birds that say, I'm here, you can turn off the dawn song. There's no need to play it anymore. They will call in their own birds at that point. And just so we can hear it. I don't know if we can hear this. That's the dawn song. It's the best sound in the whole wide world, if you ask me. All right. So, okay. So now our birds are here, and typically 4 to 6 weeks after they have arrived, it's when nest building will begin. And both the male and the female will build the nest. They'll collect sticks, straw, pine needles, etc. Some people pre-nest their houses with pine needles. I'm guilty. I don't think it's entirely necessary, but I do it. I bought a really big box of pine needles from Troyer, and all my housing is full of pine needles. It's just kind of helpful for the birds. Just gets the nest building, makes it a little bit easier. That being said, I swear to you, I've seen them taking the pine needles out of the cords. So like I said, it is an expense that does not need to be taken, but a lot of people do recommend it very highly. Troyer gourds, actually, they're real big on pre-nesting. And then the last stage of nest building is adding green leaves. Nobody really knows what the purpose of the green leaves is. It could be to deter insects. It could be to control moisture. I don't know, but we do know that after you see your nest with green leaves in it, that you're going to get eggs very, very soon. And you can see the martins love using oak tree leaves from, these pictures were probably taken over at my St. David's house. And there's a ton of oak trees over there. And yeah, so the purple martin, the female will lay 1 egg per day, generally in the morning. And she'll lay a total of 2 to 8 pure white eggs. Although the average number of eggs per nest is generally 4 to 6. And back to one little thing I want to add is where we talked about on the flyways and being close to human housing. Like, purple martins really don't mind us. As you can see here, I lowered this nest, and I believe that's the male. I don't have a picture of the front, but he's not doing a very good job. But he just went along for the ride. He stayed in there the whole time while I did all my nest checks. But anyway, so incubation begins when the second to the last egg is laid. And actually only the female can incubate because because of her brood patch, and it's that featherless area in the front. It's rich in blood vessels. It transfers heat to the eggs. But like, males will sit on the eggs for short periods of time, usually while the female is out hunting. So incubation will last 15 to 16 days. And although it can be delayed sometimes due to weather, and then hatching begins and maybe spread out over 2 or 3 days. And I can contest to that. I wish I would have put in some of my pictures. I have tons of pictures of these little pinkies just laying on top of more eggs. And you'll nest check and you'll think, oh my gosh, maybe these eggs aren't viable. And then the next time you check it, sure enough, there's another baby. So hatching really can happen over the span of a week. So patience is always required when you're doing nest checks during this time. But it is important to do nest checks like this because at some point these babies are going to get big and there might still be an unhatched egg in there, and you could candle it. I candle them all the time, and you'll be able to tell if there's a baby in there or not. Most of the time they're not viable. And you can just get rid of it. And a lot of times the martin will just get rid of it themselves. So I nest check. Well, generally people probably recommend every 4 to 5 days. I sometimes can't control myself and I go every other day, which I love checking on these birds. It really does bring me such joy. But when I go and I lower my houses, I keep a notebook and I record how many eggs. I'll mark each compartment. So each compartment will have a letter or a number, and I will mark down how many eggs have been laid. I'll mark down the date so that I have a general idea of when the birds are going to hatch. I can also track if something's happened. So if I go back to a nest and the babies are gone, or there's fewer babies, or the eggs are all gone, and that does happen. Sometimes you'll get subadult males that come in and they will go into these houses. They will pull out all the babies and they will then mate with that female, and nesting will start all over again. But it's important just to watch to see kind of what's going on, to get an idea. Here's some more of my babies getting bigger. You can see the little feathers under their skin coming in. And here we're getting more feathers coming in. And they really are so ugly when they're little. It's amazing. But nest checking is super important to so you can watch for any issues. So this is called egg capping. And what happens is a baby will hatch and the egg will break in two. And sometimes one half of that shell will kind of roll over and it will roll over onto another egg. And so what will happen is when the baby in this egg tries to hatch, it will most likely not be successful. So nest checking helps prevent issues like this. If you see a capped egg, you just carefully remove the cap so that the egg can hatch. So when to check nests. So don't check nests first thing in the morning. Don't do it in the evening. Don't do it during bad weather. Like I said, sometimes you might find a baby on the ground. If you lower your housing, you can return it to the nest it came from. And if not, you just return it to a nest with similar sized babies. And those parents will not care. Of course, don't return it to a nest if there's like 8 babies in the nest. That's probably too much work for the martin, but just look for comparable size baby. Check nests after bad weather. You just want to make sure that maybe the nest didn't get soaking wet, that nothing happened to the parents. If you go to your nest site and the martins are circling and seem super agitated and won't land and go in, it might be a good idea to do a nest check. There could be something in there that's frightening them. And then of course, after signs of predation. So if you were to find maybe a dead adult bird on the ground or feathers everywhere, you do want to check. And I will say, sometimes something happens to one of the birds, the nesting pair, and the remaining bird will be able to raise and feed their young and fledge them. So there isn't any issue with that. I just thought about that and wanted to bring that up. So
Allison,
yes.
Allison, your picture is frozen. Turn off your camera and turn it back on. Just your camera.
Oh, okay. Oh.
It's a nice pose, but we'd like to see you move.
Okay, hold on. Let me stop video, maybe. Okay.
There you go.
Okay, hi. Okay. All right. So another important issue that can be found when you're doing regular nest checks are looking for things like parasites. And birds commonly have mites, and it's just a part of nature. I took a picture. I actually lowered this house. You can't see it, and it could have been that I took this the next day. This gourd was full of mites, and the babies were covered in mites. And they were, you can see they were on the very edge of the opening or the lid where I opened the gourd to check. And anyway, they get uncomfortable. They tend to jump out of housing if they're covered up in mites. So if you do ever find mites and they look like this, you will know, because if you stick your hand anywhere near the nest, they will immediately get all over you. They're super tiny, they're creepy crawly, they're awful. And so what I do is I take the babies out of the nest. Hey, sorry. I knew that was going to happen, that the UPS was going to come. Hold on. Hey, come here. No, come here. Okay, sorry. So I take the babies out and I put them in a box so they couldn't escape. I remove all the nesting out of there. And I personally add 1/4 teaspoon of 7 dust at the bottom of the gourd. And then I put fresh bedding and nesting material on top of that. Some people say don't use 7 dust. A lot of people swear by it. I've had unbelievable success with it, but it's important to use a very small amount and put all of your nesting on top of it, because you don't want your little babies flapping their wings and then kicking up the dust and getting dust particles that they breathe in, especially with the 7 dust. But if you're not comfortable using 7 dust, then I would just say replace all the bedding, put the babies back in, check on it the next day. You might have to replace bedding again, but it should fix up the problem. Mites are very, very annoying.
Allison, would you spell that? What kind of dust?
It's like, kind of like, it's SEVIN.
Oh, and you can get that where?
You can get it at any hardware store, plant store, anything. I think you put 7 dust like in your garden to
okay, thank you.
kill bugs. Yeah. So, all right. So then after fledging, babies do receive care from both parents. And that usually lasts between 1 and 2 weeks before they leave the nesting colony. And here you can see this little guy is a young little man learning to fly. And martins will then leave their nesting colony and they will go to a pre-migratory roost. And these pre-migratory roosts, they're kind of everywhere, but this is where purple martins gather in large flocks to feed, socialize, and rest before their 5,000-mile migration journey to South America for the winter. These roosts attract thousands of birds to one small area, and they're large enough to be seen on weather radar, so that you can look on a weather radar in areas that are known to have roosts, and you can see where they are. And then martins will use the roosts for several weeks before migrating, and the roosts may last 8 to 12 weeks, because especially our roosts down here, you're getting birds from the north that aren't arriving until later in the season, and then they're laying eggs and having babies much later than we are. So these roosts last 8 to 12 weeks. And once they're established, these locations will be used for many, many years. And you can Google for the closest one, but this one on the bottom left is the La Frontera in Round Rock. And specifically, they're in the trees outside the Hobby Lobby. And I've never been to a pre-migratory roost. It's on my list. Maybe I'll do it this year. Because supposedly it is a sight to see. And other than that, my gosh, I feel like I talked forever. Here's a few links that and some info. If you want, you're more than welcome to email me. I'll be happy to send you that document about how to modify houses. But there's the link online as well. And sorry. There's my email, my purplemartins78209@gmail, or you can follow me on Instagram at purplemartins78209. I'm sorry, can you hear my cat meowing? I'm sorry. And here's my phone number. Y'all are more than welcome to call or text me. I've had one member that already has. She lives out in Bernie, and I kind of just held her hand a little bit in terms of what to buy and helped her find someone to install it. And I'm so more than happy to come by and give you any advice that I know. And if you want to support my project, you're more than welcome. Donations are always appreciated. I hope that I would like to in the future buy another house and possibly, set it up at a nursing home in the area, because I think that might bring a lot of joy to the older residents there. And some other good resources for information that I love, that I get tons and tons of info from, are these Purple Martin Facebook pages, and they are called Purple Martin Files Group and Purple Martin Landlords and Wannabes. And then the last one is Purple Martins of Texas. And these are all great resources. So, and last, here's my little signs that San Antonio Audubon Society and Bear Audubon, sorry, I have to pick my cat up. Come here. Oh, she's meowing. They helped me buy these signs, and I had them installed at the Nature Trails and at the Little League fields, but they fell down, so I got to install them in some concrete. I've enjoyed getting these houses fixed up. And I love it when I'm always there taking down a house, looking in, making notes, doing something. So if you ever see me, please feel free to stop by and say hello. And I think that would be a good way.
That'd be a good way for somebody to learn, is to kind of follow you around and maybe help you. We have some questions in the chat room too for you, if you would like to take some. Sure. Here's a person who says, this is Catherine. If you have an owl box in your backyard, should you steer clear from raising a purple martin condo, or will they cohabitate? I have a 1/3 acre residential lot.
Oh, well, and do you have a nesting owl?
You can unmute, Catherine, and answer.
Not yet.
Okay.
But there, I live in Castle Hills. We do have several in the neighborhood.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. We have, I'm sorry. I think am I still sharing?
No, you're okay. You're okay.
Yeah, no, I have so many owls in my neighborhood. I personally haven't had a problem. I know it happens, but not to the extent of needing that giant owl guard.
Yeah, that'd be more likely in the real countryside. Or you could put the owl in the front yard and the purple martins in the back, or vice versa.
Yep.
Here's another question. It says, my scouts did not return. I assume this year. I have had a colony before. It may be a little early, right?
Oh, right now?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. I think it's very early. So I did tell Patsy, I did notice today that somebody in Corpus Christi reported birds today. So I think it's very early. If you've had, did she have birds from the previous year?
Said she'd had a colony before, not specific.
Then they should be back.
Okay. And here's another one. What are the pros and cons of the typical metal houses versus the gourd houses?
Well, a lot of people think that those metal houses get really hot. And sometimes the flooring is smooth and you can get issues like splayed leg for babies. But you know, if you've got good nesting materials that those babies are on, I think that's not an issue. I haven't seen that in any of my babies. The gourds are just easy, plastic, they're durable, they're easy to clean. Although I don't clean out my T47s. I mean, I brush them out, but you know, I mean, I think the main thing that people complain about would be the heat in the metal housing.
We had an experience at Cibolo Nature Center where we had some of each. We had somebody give us one of the metal ones, I think, and then we had one with gourds. And the birds actually moved out of the metal house into the gourds. So we figure like they voted with their feet or their wings, yes, as we might say. And they are cooler. They've done some research on that. And in this climate, that might be a big thing. And somebody says here, I drowned a house sparrow and the martins left. Maybe it wasn't because of that, but.
Oh, all right, where is it? Let's see. Is it in the chat? Oh, I see here. Okay, hello. Be clean. Oh, I drowned and the martins left. I don't know. That's interesting. I haven't had any issues with martins leaving because I got rid of those sparrows. Oh, they are.
And here's the hard question. What do you do with the trapped house sparrows and starlings?
Well, Molly, I hate to tell you, but I humanely dispatch the birds, and it is not anything I enjoy. My husband does not enjoy it. But unfortunately, it's kind of a necessary evil to ensure the successful nesting and housing of these native birds. It's not just for martins, it's for bluebirds, it's for anything else. They will take over any available nests that they can find.
How do you humanely dispatch them?
Well, do you want to know? Really?
Probably better to look that up on the it might be disturbing to some of our listeners. So if you look it up on the Purple Martin site, they have some instructions. There, several different ways.
We'll use like lighter fluid, and it knocks not lighter fluid, but like it's kind of a lighter fluid. You basically kind of put them in a bag with this lighter fluid, and they don't know. They basically just go to sleep, and it's done.
Yeah.
So there's lots of humane ways to do it.
Right. Here's the other. And so if you don't have the stomach for it, it's probably not good to have a martin colony, because you do really, especially in the city, have the house sparrows and the starlings.
But if you live in the country, you can shoot the sparrows. I mean, I have sat out in my backyard, which don't tell anybody, but I'll shoot like
everybody.
pellet guns or whatever. I did shoot a BB gun one day, and I've hit like one bird, but it's not worth shooting in my backyard. But in the country, yeah, just get a little something and take them out.
It's perfectly legal.
Yes.
And here's on some, it says, I have a 32 compartment, 6x6 aluminum house. For the last 3 years, I get about 25 mature and juvenile returning, and they produce 15 to 20 fledglings. Should I leave a good thing alone or reduce the number of compartments to a larger size as per your recommendations?
If you can modify, I'm assuming a 32 compartment, maybe that's one of those castles possibly.
If whoever asked would like to respond.
Yeah, this is Bob Stewart. It's the one before any of these newfangled ones came out, that company up in the Midwest that makes the white houses with the green railings and all that stuff. So it's a hexagonal or octagonal house with with four floors or 4 layers on it.
Yes, I think they call that a castle.
Okay.
And I have modified those before. You just the little compartments are like a triangle, right?
Yeah.
And
Right.
so I would just go into with the drill, and I drilled out a hole on one side of the wall, and then you just close up one of the 2 holes, and they basically go in and turn either way. And so, yes, you'll have, half of them compartments, but I think you'll have a greater fledge rate.
Thank you. That's
Okay.
great. So now you have a decision. And here's a couple of people here when you were talking about the Severin powder.
Oh, yeah.
Sulfur works too, and also diatomaceous earth works, and it's non-toxic.
Yeah, just like 7 powder and DE, all of it's pretty controversial. If you're on Facebook on these pages, it's a good place to kind of talk about this, because you will definitely get more than you've want to know. But yes, I've definitely heard of using diatomaceous earth. I haven't used it. I think it's probably the same issue with putting it underneath the nest, so that when they're flapping their wings, they're not inhaling these particles, because whether it's non-toxic or not, it's still going to be bad if they inhale it.
And one last question here. Do martins eat bees?
That's a good question.
I know one thing they do eat that everybody would be happy about. When the fire ants swarm and they get wings, they will eat swarming fire ants, and you've got to love a bird that eats those.
Yes. My neighbor has a bee house, and I've never really noticed it, like in cleaning out anything or in looking at pictures. I haven't really noticed a whole lot of bees.
Yeah,
being
they eat a
brought
lot
in.
of dragonflies.
Lots of dragonflies.
And I just wanted to mention, you mentioned those roost, pre-migratory roosts.
Oh, uh-huh.
If you go on the Travis Audubon website, just travisaudubon.org,
Okay.
they hold purple martin parties. Whenever they find the roost for the year, they go out there and they have exhibits, and they explain about the martins and all. And I have been to one, and it is a phenomena that is worth the drive to Austin or Round Rock to see. Make an evening of it. Take you a folding chair, take your movie camera, your phone. It is just one of the most awesome sights that you will see in the natural world. And you feel like you're on David Attenborough show or something. So they even they did this one year at a hotel, and the hotel was very nice. They roped off that part of the parking lot, and they even had the bar make a special drink called the Purple Martini. And they celebrated the martins, and everybody was having a great time and watching these birds. Well, I want to mention to the people here that we have recorded this session, and it will be posted with Allison's permission. We're going to post it on the Bear Audubon Society website, which is just bearaudubon.org. And if you want to go back and reference, you'll have a link to the recording, and you'll also have a link to the chat questions. And you can remember the answers maybe. And you have the Allison slide with all, and Allison, if you would email me just that slide with all those references, I'll put that in the folder with everything, and then people can just use those as a reference. And thank you for I never heard of egg capping. I never knew about putting that powder in there. It's just so much to think about. And we're so grateful that you're a crazy bird lady, and that you would come and talk to us, and you do these wonderful things for these birds. So if anybody feels inclined to donate or go out and help, probably having another pair of hands would be great. Just give Allison a call. She's a wonderful person to talk to. She's works though. She has 3 kids, 2 dogs, 2 cats, and a husband who's lovely. So please do get with her if you want to learn from the
Patsy, I was just saying, I'll give you my email address, but if anyone's interested, like later on in the season, like if they want to come join me, maybe I can organize, some time on a certain day where, we lower the nests and do nest checks together. I'd be happy to do that.
That would be so cool. So if anybody wants to do that, that is so generous. Thank you very much. Of course, everybody will be masked up, but except the birds, right? And we do have a colony, an active colony of martins out at the Mitchell Lake Audubon Center. And it's just wonderful to hear them talking to one another and doing their thing. So I want to thank everybody. And again, Allison, thank you so much for your time and for all your wonderful passion for these birds. And thanks to everybody who came. Really enjoyed the questions, good questions. And if you think of anything afterward, you'll know where to go. So join us at the end of this month to learn about the birds of prey. And if you want to learn more about ducks, go on the Cibolo Nature Center website and join us for Duckology on the 21st of January. So have the rest of your evening and enjoy the martins when they're here. Good night.